President Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced the new rules on May 31st following the weekly cabinet meeting. Under the new rules, nationwide weekday and Saturday curfews, previously starting at 9 p.m., will now start at 10 p.m. and continue until 5 a.m. Sunday lockdowns will continue. Under the gradual normalization plan, restaurants and cafes are now allowed to offer indoor dining under certain restrictions between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m., while their delivery services will continue until midnight. While cinemas had initially been announced to reopen as of June 1st, an additional circular was published postponing the opening of cinemas to July. Education Minister Ziya Selçuk also announced how education will continue until the end of the term. Primary school students on June 1st return to classrooms. They will attend in-person lessons 2 days a week, but this will not be compulsory. Middle and high school students will do the same from June 7th. After the daily number of COVID-19 cases soared to above 60,000 in April, Turkey imposed a full lockdown from April 29th to May 17th, which helped the country reduce the daily number of infections. Since May 20th, the number of daily coronavirus cases has been below 10,000. The new measures will be reassessed in July by taking into account the number of vaccinations, death toll, and coronavirus cases, Erdogan said. Following the announcement regarding the easing of restrictions, musicians, performers, and entertainers reacted against the decision of keeping musical shows, concerts, and recitals out of the gradual normalization plan. Led by entertainment venue chain Jolly Joker, the sector launched a campaign titled "Don't Turn a Blind Eye" to raise awareness about the financial calamity they face after more than a year of unemployment due to the COVID-19 pandemic. During this period, they were forced to survive without aid as government economic support packages did not include them. The Don't Turn a Blind Eye campaign urges everyone to stop ignoring the rut the entertainment industry has fallen into and help save live performance venues across the country. They're demanding the government impose curfews at midnight instead of 10 p.m. on weekdays and Saturdays so that they could perform music and make a living. Public health specialist Dr. Nuria Ortaylı spoke to Medyascope regarding the normalization measures. While Dr. Ortaylı openly stated that the government is unable to manage the pandemic and that these measures do not make sense, she further commented on the exclusion of the entertainment sector from the normalization process, saying, "The government has accepted the risks in keeping the construction sector, tourism sector open. It has accepted the risks in keeping shopping malls open in the name of the economy. They could have also very well figured out a way in which musicians could continue their work under safer measures. A system can very well be put into place. There can be limitation on attendance numbers, concerts can be held in open air. Of course, all of this can be done if you have the right intentions. The measures do not make sense. Shopping malls are open, the closed spaces of restaurants are open, but if you're gradually normalizing, it would make more sense to begin by opening activities done in open air. This is being done intentionally. The government simply does not care about the certain sectors. They are not even trying to be fair. This is very dangerous." Lead singer of the band Red, Doğan Duru also spoke to Medyascope Edanur Tanış in a special broadcast and evaluated the exclusion of musicians from the normalization process. According to Duru,
AKP is not against the music sector per se. On the contrary, throughout the pandemic, musicians close to the AKP have been able to organize concerts and talks with AKP municipalities. Erdogan's chief advisor İbrahim Kalın even released a single. Music industry is not a major industry, and that's why they're not seriously considering it as an affected sector of the pandemic. Only sectors which have an impact on the economy are considered in these normalization plans. On the other hand, there is an ideological approach to the entertainment sector and activities which entail the drinking of alcohol. There is a need to limit these activities. There is an active effort to do so, and I believe these efforts will continue post-pandemic. After the pandemic, I think there will be limitations on concert hours, on the sale of alcohol. These will continue.
8 years have passed since the start of the Gezi resistance, to which more than 4 million people in Turkey participated in. During the resistance, Mehmet Ayvalıtaş, Ethem Sarısülük, Ali İsmail Korkmaz, Ahmet Atakan, Hasan Ferit Gedik, Abdullah Cömert, and Medeni Yıldırım have lost their lives, and Mehmet İstif and Elif Çermik have lost their lives as a result of the pepper gas that they were exposed to. There was a shocking level of police brutality that resulted in the death of 9 people over the course of the demonstrations. The names of those people who were killed during the Gezi have been engraved on people's minds and became a symbol of the protests and of police brutality. Out of hundreds of people who were arrested during the protests, lawsuits were filed for more than 120 of them. Osman Kavala stands as the most topical example to these arrests, as he is accused of being an organizer and funder of the protests. The Turkish philanthropist was arrested in 2017 with an indictment accusing Kavala of being the mastermind behind the Gezi Park protests, which was described in the indictment as attempt to overthrow the government through violence. Kavala remains behind bars up to this day, despite the numerous calls from the European Court of Human Rights for his immediate release. The Gezi Park protests of 2013 initially began as a reaction to renovation plans of the ruling Justice and Development Party to construct a mall or artillery barracks on the city's few remaining green spots. A small group of environmentalists from Taksim Solidarity gathered in the park and refused to leave, preventing the cutting down of trees on May 27, 2013, after construction efforts began overnight. The group became larger on May 28th, as politicians and artists also visited protesters to halt demolition in the area. As police brutality increased, thousands headed to the area to protest. Initially centered in Istanbul, the protests spread all over Turkey starting from June 1st, as millions took to the streets to raise their voices against police brutality and government policies. This turned into the largest wave of protests against the government in Turkey's history. This year, Taksim Solidarity, the group that first started the environmental protest that evolved into Gezi, urged the public to meet on Taksim Square on May 31st to mark the anniversary, but the Beyoğlu District Governor's Office banned all demonstrations in the area hours before gathering. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has numerously mentioned that the artillery barracks would be built in Taksim Square, but no tangible steps were taken regarding this project in the course of the 8 years. Instead, a mosque was built at Taksim. Erdogan held the opening ceremony of Taksim Mosque on the Gezi protests anniversary. The current Istanbul Metropolitan Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu had held out a project competition regarding the renovation of the Taksim Square and had held out an online survey where the Istanbulites could vote for their favorite project. However, this past March, the Culture and Tourism Ministry's General Directorate of Foundations made a sudden call, announcing that the property of Gezi Park was to be passed on to the Sultan Beyazıt Hanıveli Hazretleri Foundation, thus cancelling the municipality's democratically decided project for Taksim. Can Atalay, a prominent lawyer involved in the ongoing lawsuit regarding Gezi Park protests, spoke to Medyascope and gave his thoughts on the ongoing Gezi lawsuit.
Frankly, we are currently still faced with the ruling AKP and its former and current allies' inability to understand, as well as refusal to understand, the Gezi protests. I say inability to understand because they really have not understood what was going on for a long time. Gezi did not fit into any labeled box, nor did it fit into any of their methods to divide and conquer. With that, I mean, they could not say, this is the uprising of the Kurds. They could not blame it on the socialists. They could not code it as just another CHP incident. And they did not know what to do with it. They only tried to overcome the movement through militaristic precautions. However, on June 15, 2013, right before Gezi Park's evacuation, they decided this. How can we label this or make this look bad? And following an intellectual activity they carried out, they decided to defame this through labeling it as a game of foreign powers. Again, during the recent opening of the Taksim Mosque, Erdogan talked about Gezi maliciously and said, the terrorists at Gezi. Every time he opens his mouth, he compares Gezi to December 17 to 25th corruption and bribe scandals, to the July 15 coup attempt, and even to mob leader Sedat Peker's distress. We reject these allegations with the back of our hands. Gezi resistance is a sign that this country, this society, is alive, is reactive, and has a sign of life.
Protests carried out by the students and faculty of the Boğaziçi University have been ongoing since January 4th. The resistance completed their 105th day of protests on June 2nd. As students continue to hold protests in various forms and practices, the Boğaziçi faculty also continue to hold silent protests as they turn their back to the rectorate building. This week, a part-time Boğaziçi professor and lawyer, Feyzi Erçin's request to give a lecture for the summer semester has been arbitrarily disapproved by the rectorate, on the grounds that his gradings is unfair. On May 31st, a large group of students gathered in support of Professor Erçin at Boğaziçi University and formed a circle around him, chanting slogans of, "Don't touch my professor." The students then wanted to stay overnight in the campus square, distinctly from the previous days, but the police force intervened and the students were taken outside the campus. Feyzi Erçin has been one of the most talked about names on social media since May 31st. Boğaziçi students, along with many other people, shared tweets in support of Erçin with a hashtag of Feyzi Professor is not alone. Feyzi Erçin has been teaching at Boğaziçi University for 8 years, and he gives lectures about film and the usage of music and film at the Department of Western Language and Literature. Erçin wanted to have one of his classes, film music, reopened for the summer semester and send out his request to the department. However, the department's request for Erçin to give a summer class has been rejected by the appointed assistant rector Naci İnci, with the reasoning that his grading is unfair and that he does not fit into the standards of Boğaziçi University. So, as a result, the rectorate does not want him to give lectures. As a part of his lawyer identity, Feyzi Erçin has been actively supporting the students' judicial processes throughout the Boğaziçi resistance, both inside the university walls and outside on the streets. He was also one of the hundreds of Boğaziçi faculty to silently protest and turn backs on the rectorate building. Speaking to Mediascope on what happened and the reasoning behind the denial to open his class, Feyzi Erçin said that the rectorate decision is politically motivated due to his stance and solidarity with the Boğaziçi resistance.
Unfortunately, it seems like the work I do to protect human rights as a lawyer, and thus paving the way for our students to stand up for their own rights, has disturbed the rectorate. Because there is nothing else I do besides that. And that is very upsetting. The fact that they're acting so desperately, and that they are doing this under the ideology of Boğaziçi University, is very sad.
In other developments relating to the Boğaziçi protests, on June 3rd, Boğaziçi students gathered in front of the Çağlayan courthouse where the hearing of their 12 friends was being held. 12 Boğaziçi students were detained for displaying a rainbow flag on March 25th during the Boğaziçi protests and are being tried for breaching the ban on demonstrations and gatherings. Despite the day-long demonstration ban, the Boğaziçi students gathered in front of the Çağlayan courthouse with rainbow flags and posters that read, "Çağlayan is colorful," and showed their support to their 12 detained friends. The hearing, on the other hand, was postponed to June 28th. The signature obligation of the 12 detained students were lifted, but their international travel ban still remains. The month of June is celebrated as the Pride Month to celebrate the importance of and to recognize the impact that the LGBTQI+ community has had in the world.
On May 30th, organized crime leader Sedat Peker released his 8th video entitled "The Shoots That Grow With Storms Do Not Fall With Winds," where he makes claims that Turkey sent arms to al-Nusra in Syria. In the video, Peker addresses President Recep Tayyip Erdogan himself directly for the first time in the series of videos.
On May 30th, Sedat Peker released his 8th video, latest from the series that he started over the raiding operations targeted at his properties. In his 8th video, Peker claimed that he sent arms to the armed Salafist jihadist organization Al-Nusra through Sadat, Turkey-based international defense consultancy, during the Syrian civil war, saying that the cost of the arms were defrayed by himself to be delivered to the Bayırbucak Turkmens. Peker stated the following.
After the trailer trucks of the Turkish National Intelligence Service were busted, we sent help through the Sedat Peker aid trucks in order to elevate the society's sentiment and to help our brothers. There were some other trailer trucks along with those that went under my name. There are arms inside those trucks. This is not organized by the National Intelligence Agency or by the military. This is organized by Sedat. No transaction or registration is carried out. Everything is bought with my money. Then my friend said that the trucks were going to Al-Nusra, but it did not go through me. It went through Sedat. You all wanted to degrade me, right? You will see. All of you will fit into a matchbox.
Medyascope editor-in-chief Ruşen Çakır stressed the importance of Sedat Peker's such claims regarding Sadat's aid to Al-Nusra with the following statement.
Now, when we say Al-Nusra, we cannot simply say that it is an anti-government Islamic organization and be done with it. Al-Nusra is Al-Qaeda's new name. For a while, they went by the name Al-Nusra. It is recognized as a direct extension of the international terror network to Syria. The fact that he's brought this up within the context of Sedat fleshes out the long existing claims from the international circles and the media that Turkey is supporting Al-Nusra. Sedat Peker is saying this as someone who's personally inside the incident himself. He's saying that the trucks have tagged along to his convoy, but then it continued independently from him.
Sedat Peker also addressed the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, saying that they will talk privately in the upcoming video.
Our dear President, Brother Tayyip, said that this is an international conspiracy and that I am at the center of it without saying my name. He said, they will see. We will find them and bring them. The government will find me and bring me. We don't have a problem with that. But will finding me and bringing me change the truth, Brother Tayyip? If I am a spy for an international conspiracy, then in the upcoming video, I will tell Brother Tayyip. I will tell when we met, when we talked. Neither more nor less.
Peker said. Peker also put forward that the former Minister of Treasury and Finance, who is also President Erdogan's son-in-law, Berat Albayrak, is staying at Murat Sancak's house, head of the Star Media Company, in Istanbul's Beylikdüzü district. This video was anxiously awaited by the Turkish public, as developments prior to its release raised tensions. Many wondered how Peker would respond to Interior Minister Süleyman Soylu's much-discussed interview on Habertürk TV regarding Peker, and President Erdogan and his ally and National Movement Party Chair Devlet Bahçeli support to Soylu.
This evening, academic and political scientist Burak Bilgehan Özpek is joining us to speak about Peker's videos. We will cover what his videos reveal about the way politics is done in Turkey, the response from government circles, the role of the opposition, and Peker's place in the eyes of the public.
Hello, Mr. Özpek. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So it's been now 2 months that the whole of Turkey and as well as internationally has been following mob leader Sedat Peker's video series, where he has been making some serious allegations against current and former government officials. Turkey has been discussing these videos through different perspectives and what they reveal about the way politics is being done in the country, as well as the relationship politicians and the government has with organized crime. Now, looking back on these videos, of which there are 8 now, what can you tell us about what the videos reveal in terms of the way Turkey is being governed today?
Actually, it shows that how legitimate actors are regarded as illegitimate actors, and how illegitimate actors were regarded as, legitimate actors in contemporary Turkey. Sedat Peker released in 2014, and he was not defined as a mob leader by the government. He was used as an efficient tool to, mobilize the people. The authoritarian governments have different forms, have different versions, and the Turkish authoritarian regime is based on mobilization of people, and Sedat Peker was a very influential figure actually in the eye of public opinion, especially for the young generations living in Anatolia. in 2014, Sedat Peker actually, I think, made a deal with the government, and he represented an alternative nationalism. Sedat Peker was used to undermine Devlet Bahçeli, who was in the opposition during the peace process, and Sedat Peker was used to, how to say, attract nationalist votes from nationalist party, because during the peace process, government was afraid of, the nationalist party to exploit the situation and to get votes from the AK Party base. But, Sedat Peker was a very, nationalist and a very, influential figure, and he was used by the government. After June 7 elections, actually, nationalist party allied with the government, and Sedat Peker did find a very, how to say, comfortable zone to play his game. He wasn't actually represented as a mob leader. He was represented as a political figure by the government and government media. In 2017, if I'm not mistaken, Milliyet newspaper presented him as a businessman, and he was allowed to organize meetings in Anatolian towns, and thousands of people attended to these meetings. So Sedat Peker was not defined as a mob leader by the government. He was, viewed as a, influential nationalist figure. And as he tweeted about this, government was in the need of a fear atmosphere, and Sedat Peker helped government to construct such kind of a, authoritarian atmosphere in the society, because codes and, the legal framework cannot allow a government to behave in a very authoritarian way. So illegal channels, are used to create an authoritarian atmosphere, and Sedat Peker played a very crucial role here, actually. So this crucial role made him a partner of the coalition. So he was a member of coalition. That's why he's very popular. The claims speculated by Sedat Peker was written by several authors from especially left-wing, intellectual schools. For example, Gazete Duvar was writing something about that, or Fehim Taştekin did write many, many claims about Turkey's operations in Syria, but government did not actually did not respond to these, allegations. But Sedat Peker was one of them. He was a partner of government. He played a very crucial role in creating a, authoritarian atmosphere. So now he is being listened by, especially the people who voted for AK Party or Nationalist Party. That's why he is so important.
Yes, and I mean, you touched upon several things here, Mr. Özpek, that I'd like to bring back, especially in relation to the alternative nationalism that he represents, and perhaps how, in that sense, he has been used to attract nationalist votes, and perhaps how that relates to his popularity, his videos, his popularity today. But before we come to the viewing of these videos by the population, the Turkish public, how do you perhaps evaluate the reactions coming from the government figures in relation to the claims made? Because, as you said, he was a partner of the government and he was used in several different ways by the government, but now he's revealing these mechanisms. And I mean, there are specific claims that are being responded to, desperately trying to counter them, to criminalize Peker now, as opposed to in the past. And this is, I don't think this is succeeding very much. And on the other hand, there are also calls to ignore the videos. So what does this, do you think the AKP is worried?
I'm not sure, because it's hard to define whether there is a party over there, or there are cliques, or there are competing factions in the government. So I don't think that there is an institutional AK party. So I cannot respond to your question. But there is no criteria of legitimacy in contemporary Turkey. In a modern state, the criteria of legitimacy stems from the codes and stems from constitution. But in contemporary Turkey, we define actors as legitimate or illegitimate from the perspective of government. If an actor helps government to promote its agenda, it turns into a legitimate actor, although he or she, conducts illegal activities. Or if, an academic or an intellectual says something which could disturb government, this, might be a very legal activity according to Turkish constitution, but government can criminalize and could declare this action as an illegitimate action. So there is a legitimacy problem in Turkey. And Sedat Peker was an illegitimate actor until 2014, but between 2014 and 2020, he was extremely legitimate just because he helped government to conduct a certain, authoritarian agenda. That's why he is very, very influential over the society. And now government is trying to, some members of government actually, not the whole cabinet, but Minister of Interior wants to criminalize him again, but it is not working because 1 year ago this guy was organizing meetings, so he was very legitimate. He was, he was calling people to mobilize behind Erdogan and AK Party. So it is far from convincing people that Erdogan is just, Sedat Peker is just a criminal person. That's why this strategy will not work. I think Sedat Peker is smart enough to fight against Süleyman Soylu and other guys in the deep state. He will exclude Erdogan and he will not create a new front. And he is gonna just fight against some people in the cabinet, and he wanna cleanse them. And I think these figures have some enemies inside that party as well. I don't think that Süleyman Soylu has full backing and full support of other AK Party members. And I don't think that he has full support from Bahçeli and Erdogan as well. So we cannot talk about a coalition mechanism whose members trust in each other or support each other. It's a coalition mechanism in which actors can survive by threatening each other or by creating cost for each other. And Sedat Peker knows this, and he wants to actually create a pressure over Süleyman Soylu. He implies that Soylu and Mehmet Ağar and other guys are creating some costs for AK Party, and AK Party should exclude them. That's the strategy of Peker.
So sorry.
Okay, but I think both Peker and Soylu will not be the winner of this game. They both will lose at the end of this story.
So there's, I guess, Peker is trying to kind of divide or bring at least to light the divisions within the AKP. But on the other side, there is the opposition as well. So you mentioned that there is a lack of legitimacy, a climate where the criteria for legitimacy in Turkey, it no longer exists. So in such a context, what should be the role of the opposition? How should they position themselves in the face of these videos? How do you find their responses so far?
I think they are extremely cautious, and they learned something from the graft probe and the story of Gülenists in Turkey. However, it is interesting to observe that the opposition parties were not regarded as legitimate competitors in the political system. For years, actually, opposition parties ask questions to Minister of Interior and they get no answer. But now a mob leader is recording a video, uploading it on YouTube, and he is getting answers from the Minister of Interior or ex-Minister of Interior or ex-Prime Minister, and from Gendarmerie, for example. So it is very weird, actually, because in democracies, governments are responsible to respond to the questions of legitimate opposition parties, but Turkey is a very weird case because government is responding to the allegations of a mob leader, but ignoring the opposition parties. That's the system. And that's why it's an authoritarian system, because, you know, in democratic systems, all actors are regarded as legitimate ones and they interact with each other. But AK Party's system is different. You know, there are some, you know, unofficial members of this coalition. For example, what is the role of Doğu Perinçek in this coalition? No one knows. What is the role of Sedat Peker in this coalition? Probably creating an authoritarian atmosphere. What is the responsibility of Devlet Bahçeli in this coalition? No one knows. What is the, you know, bargaining process between MHP and AK Party? No one knows. So it's very weird. It's very complicated, you know, entity, and they are interacting with each other. I think opposition is right to analyze the situation as an intra-family thing. It's an intra-family issue. So there are allegations. They are disgusting, but, you know, the opposition is, you know, reluctant to build a discourse and a policy based on the allegations of Sedat Peker. I think Peker is popular enough. His videos are watched by millions of people, and you know, it is not very possible for any political leader, regardless of an opposition politician or an AK Party or MHP politician, cannot be watched as Sedat Peker. So his videos are downloaded, you know, 15 million times, and this means that 25 or 30 million people are watching these videos. So he's popular enough. I think his discourses are creating an autonomous, you know, opposition line. So there is no need for opposition parties to adopt Sedat Peker, to back Sedat Peker, and to, how to say, to build a discourse and policy based on these allegations. The only thing that opposition parties can do is, you know, calling for resignation of the people who are the target of Sedat Peker for the, how to say, for the continuation of the judicial process.
Mr. Özpek, you mentioned some aspects as to why these videos are popular amongst the people, and you know, the ways in which, you know, Peker spoke to a certain segment of the population. Could you perhaps expand on that? Why is why is he attracting so many viewers? Perhaps also in terms of, you know, the climate of the, you know, information and the way, you know, the media controls the information. I mean, how does he fit into that, and what kind of you know, awareness, I guess, is he creating? Is he creating one?
It depends on the sociology of Turkey, actually. You know, the deep state is more popular than official legitimate state in Turkey. You know, most of the people are fan of mafia shows, and, you know, such kind of dark people are appreciated by, especially people living in rural area, uneducated people, you know, love such kind of complicated relations. So actually this culture has been created by AK Party since 2015, because they argue that, AK Party members and MHP members argue that we are in extraordinary times. So extraordinary times require extraordinary, you know, measures, you know, to overcome these tough days. So, you know, the mafia and other, you know, actors could find a playground for themselves, and this made them as, how to say, heroes in the eye of public opinion. As I told you before, the mobilization is everything for this government, and these guys use their personal charisma and, you know, how to say, bug of Turkish sociology, and became popular figures, popular icons, actually. That's why Peker is very, you know, how to say, remarkable speaker for the traditional voters of AK Party and MHP. For years, they learned that Peker is a patriot guy, a nationalist guy. He does everything for his country. He is providing trucks for the Turkomans in Syria. So he is a guy from he's a guy from our family, actually. Is the common assessment among the people living in rural areas. Of course, there are opposition voters who watched the videos. I think Peker is very successful figure in creating a hypnotic sense over the audience. He is creating an hypnosis in the first 30 minutes, actually. He is telling stories, very interesting performance is taking place, actually. And he wants to audience to understand that he is one of them, especially for the Anatolian people. It's a very good show, actually. Very smart strategy, in my opinion. But I have no idea what is the political aim, political goal of Sedat Peker. So I cannot say why, Peker is behaving in this way, or why is Peker, pointing out specific names. I don't know his political, aims, because he's not a political actor at the end of the day. If Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu records a similar kind of videos, I can say that this guy wants to capture he wants to subvert the Erdogan government and capture the government, come to office. Or Akşener records a similar video, I can say that she is an opposition leader, and of course she wants to defeat Erdogan in the ballot box. But Sedat Peker's political agenda is not obvious, so I cannot, analyze what he is aiming, what he wants to be so popular, what is he gonna do with this popularity.
Just to expand on what you said, Mr. Özpek, you had also mentioned in one of your another interview that you did for Medyascope that it was also the language Sedat Peker used which made him popular amongst the people, as one of us, as part of the family, because he also has the use of language, which is perhaps lost on our English-speaking viewers, but just to add on to that performativity, it's also the specific words and expressions that he uses, which makes him all the more attractive to the people as well. That I just wanted to mention. And lastly, how can then these videos have an impact on the way politics is done in Turkey? I mean, will there be negative consequences for the ruling Justice and Development Party? Because in the past, and I'm thinking specifically about the 2013 corruption scandal, these things barely took a toll on the AKP. So what will happen now? How can these claims of criminal activity, of bullying, of rape, of corruption, go beyond simply remaining claims that we watch as a performance, and have an impact that can change the way politics is done in Turkey?
This is different than the corruption scandal in 2013, because the corruption scandal was revealed by Gülenist guys. Actually, they were very strong in the government. They were very strong in bureaucracy, army, in police department, in media, in business world. So, the absence of Erdogan would mean, the power of Gülenists. That's why they failed, actually. Strength was their weakness, but, the weakness of Peker is his strength. In addition to that, Gülenists argued that they are fully clean, while they accused Erdogan and his cabinet of being involved in corruption scandals. But we all know that the Gülenist guys were at the heart of the money distribution mechanism in municipalities or in the government. So they were not clean as well, but they were claiming that they were clean, and this created a trust building problem with people and Gülenist guys. But Peker argues that he is a dirty guy and his family is also dirty, but he says that I am dirty, but the guys that I'm pointing out are also dirty. So it is more credible in the eye of people. In addition to that, he uses the language of actual right-wing populist politics. For example, if he talks about an Islamist or a nationalist, poet, he uses the word ustad, so only right-wing people uses the word ustad to define an Islamist poet. He drops names and he uses some stories from Islamic history. And at the end of his videos, he, says that we are going to build Turan. Turan means that, unity of the Turks, the Turkic family, actually. So he wants to attract nationalists, pan-Turkists, Islamists, conservatives. But what he is doing is actually, and what he will, he will achieve is the end of the national security story in Turkey. It's because the government legitimized every kind of actions behind the mask of national security. But Peker tells that national security just served the interest of individuals in the system. It is very important. Actually, I'm not interested in his allegations towards Minister of Interior or other guys, but he is saying that the national security story has been used and instrumentalized for some people to exploit the resources in the system. That is very important. And if he will achieve something, this will be a very, asset for Turkey, because millions of people in Anatolia believe that, the government is ruled by, heroes and the people who are, like angels, like, romantic.
Looking out for the interest.
Yeah. So he is deconstructing this image. Actually, this will be his success if he becomes successful.
Mm-hmm. Burak Bilgehan Özpek, thank you so much for having joined us today.
You're welcome.
Marine mucilage has invaded Turkey's Marmara Sea. The sea snot constitutes a grave danger, threatening the fishing industry and marine biome considerably.
Marine mucilage is a goopy discharge of protein, carbohydrates, and fat from microscopic algae called phytoplankton. Caused by the over-reproduction of certain types of microalgae, sea snot has severely hurt the fishing industry in the region and is now threatening the marine ecosystem of the Marmara Sea. The substance was documented in the Marmara Sea for the first time in 2007. This year's event, the largest yet seen, began in deep waters in December 2020 and was initially only a nuisance to fishermen who were unable to cast their nets since the mucilage appeared. Now experts are urging authorities to take quick action to eliminate the problem as soon as possible. Blaming wrong waste management policies, experts highlighted that the sea snot incident is not a natural but a man-made disaster. Mustafa Sarı, the dean of the Marine Faculty of Bandırma 17 Eylül University, demanded a new waste management policy for the Marmara Sea. Noting that around 25 million people live near the borders of the Marmara Sea, Sarı said,
"The mucilage did not occur accidentally. We made it happen with wrongful waste management."
In previous years, though there was the presence of sea snot on the Marmara Sea, it was not at this level. According to Sarı, the sea lost its capacity to handle mucilage anymore.
"We cannot find a solution in 40 days to a problem we created in 40 years.
He added. Authorities started a cleaning process on the Marmara Sea recently, but according to Neslihan Özdelice, a professor from Istanbul University, this is just a temporary action. The seabed is dead, and we have to find a way to revive the oxygen-deprived sea immediately, Özdelice noted.
19-year-old national athlete Ayşe Onbaşı won the gold medal at the 16th International Gymnastics Federation Aerobic Gymnastic World Championships. This win marks Turkey's first world medal in aerobic gymnastics.
Ayşe Onbaşı was born on December 9, 2001 in Akhisar, Turkey. At the age of 3, she began learning ballet from a Spanish ballet teacher, Maria. Maria encouraged Onbaşı to begin gymnastics, leading her into a career in competitive aerobic gymnastics at the age of 7. She was admitted to the national team in 2011-2012. The gymnast has won more than 60 medals, including 35 gold medals in national and international competitions. She trains 6 days a week by dedicating 8-9 hours daily. She studies at Istanbul Gelişim University's Institute of Sport Sciences and Istanbul University's Department of Business. The World Championships are held biennially in various countries since 1995. This year, they were held in Baku, Azerbaijan. Onbaşı, Darina Pashova from Bulgaria, and Daria Tikhonova from Russia each scored 21,850 points in the individual women's final. The tie was broken by comparing their execution scores, with Onbaşı earning 9,000 points, and thus Turkey's first world title. Onbaşı's team members Emir Erışık and Erkut Ergin came 8th with 20,983 points at the trio final. We have shown the power of Turkish women. Thank you again for your support of Turkish sports and the Gymnastics Federation, said Onbaşı after receiving her gold medal. Several celebrities and President Erdogan proudly congratulated the national athlete.
That's all from This Week in Turkey. See you next Friday at 9 p.m. Good night.